are you? Hi.
Uh-oh.
Hear me now?
Yeah,
I can hear you.
Okay, I can hear you guys too.
Cool. So we have Amanda here.
Amanda, last name?
Amanda Surabash.
Amanda Yusuf. You know Halsey?
And Candy Saldivar.
Okay. This is.
So as you can see, we're in the library room, pushed together so we can show the camera.
The recording?
Yes.
And here we are. So who would like to go? Who would like to share theirs first?
Well, first of all, we created a Google Doc that has all our writings. So.
And because we have the 40-minute time limit, then we'll do about 10 minutes each one.
Yes.
So let's start with Lena since you're at the very top.
Okay. Should I read or?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What are your highlights of your writing?
Yeah, tell us about your research.
Okay. So my research is about refugees and immigrants coming to America, and some Americans accusing that refugees are taking their jobs. So my research is about, is it really true that refugees are taking and stealing American jobs, or they are creating more jobs opportunities? So in the first paragraph is just some statistics about the refugees coming to America in 2017, how many are they and how is it? And it shows that it's increasing every year. And after that is, some, not quotes, but some things that Trump said about immigrants and refugees stealing American jobs. So he's trying to limit the refugees coming to the Americans' land by building a wall in the Mexican border and other things. And the next paragraph talks about how immigrants get help when they come here through different organizations, such as Catholic Charity, Jewish Family Services, and other organizations, and what they do for them. Mm-hmm. And the other paragraph is, why refugees came to America, what they were looking for. And this is, I know this from a personal experience, so that's why I wrote it. And the last one is my purpose statement and the questions.
Can you tell us a little bit about your personal experience and why you chose this topic?
So I chose this topic because in 2008, I was a refugee here in America, so I know a little bit about it. And with researching it, but I did not know that Americans were really thinking, some of them, not all of them, were thinking that refugees are taking and stealing jobs. So that's why I'm researching this topic.
Mm-hmm. So are you researching the rate of jobs that refugees currently hold?
What I started researching is what the refugees are working, what jobs they can work when they first come here, and if they really are stealing jobs or creating more jobs for Americans. So that's some of the questions also that I wrote.
So it's like a qualitative approach where you're collecting the data based on surveys and just numbers and stuff like that, correct?
Quantitative, and I'm doing a survey also.
Can you read your questions to us?
Okay. So I have 5 questions. And the first one is, are refugees really stealing job opportunities from Americans? The second is, what kind of jobs refugees are getting when they first come to America? And the third one is, are refugees creating jobs or stealing jobs? And the fourth one is, what is the role of counseling in this issue? The last one is, how can counselors provide help to refugees and immigrants?
Okay.
I think those are good.
So let's open up the class prompt of our discussion.
It's up there.
Okay. I did not see it. Alrighty. So, what's your project's worldview? Which worldview are you choosing?
Let me see, where did I?
So we see that your introduction and proposal, it's about the job market, specifically the impact from immigrants and refugees, right? Is that what you guys are getting to?
Mhm.
So I chose transformative worldview, just because it's more like political.
Mm.
Politically driven.
Mhm.
And that makes sense because you're also involving like quotes from Trump.
Mhm. And what
And
he's
And
trying
recent
to do.
news.
yeah, recently like
And-
archived news in a way.
And people are still searching about that because there's nothing done yet. But he's talking about a lot of stuff he will do.
Mm.
So I think like one of your questions could be better worded, so it's more of an open-ended question. Like question number 3: Are refugees creating jobs or stealing jobs?
Mhm.
Maybe we should.
Yeah, it's more like a comparison.
Yeah, like I think like maybe or even like also number 5: How can counselors provide help? Even like including like what other resources are available to refugees, like alternative options,
Mhm.
just so that it can be more specific
Okay.
as opposed to not specific.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
thinking
good.
about number 3, like are refugees creating jobs or stealing jobs?
Yeah, but I can't think of like in another wording for that.
That could maybe be broken up into 2, like how,
Yes, how specifically,
yeah,
or
And
what specific like steps are refugees creating?
Like how they're creating jobs here.
Yeah. I don't think I caught the purpose statement. What is that one?
It's kind of the
Oh,
last,
in the end, I see it.
the end.
can
Yes.
you read it to us?
So the purpose of this experiment is to examine the relationship between increasing immigrants and refugees with decreasing Americans' jobs. And I will use a survey with a set of questions to know more about their education level, age group, jobs they can perform, and challenges they are facing.
Okay.
Mm.
another question in the promise is this study ethical? Yes or no? What do you guys think? I think it's ethical.
I don't see why it wouldn't be ethical because it's a very current issue.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And there's no harm in figuring out information like this because people deserve to know this type of information. And I
Well,
think
I have a question. So would the surveys be like in different languages?
Well, because I know how to read and write Arabic and English, so we'll be in both.
Mm.
For some who don't read and write Arabic, they can read the English one.
Mm-hmm.
And the one that don't read English, they will read the Arabic one.
okay.
Yeah.
So I'm doing it more for the Middle Easterns.
Mm-hmm. More specifically.
And for like Mexicans, I will provide it in English. Maybe I can.
I think that would be where it's ethically like, because it has to be culturally sensitive to like that group. But if you're just focusing on like Middle Eastern, like with those groups, then I think it's okay.
Well, I'm
But-
trying to do the Mexicans too because
Also-
the border, the wall is affecting them.
then
Then
it would have to.
We can
probably-
find, yeah, like you could find.
Yeah, I think also just because we're right next to the border, you would be able to get more like data
Mhm. So I would
if
suggest
you were to actually research.
I would suggest that those surveys for like Spanish speakers should be also in Spanish, so that
I
they
can use the help of my coworker to
Yeah.
translate it.
Yeah,
so that they are able to fully understand what is being asked of them.
asked and yeah.
Okay, that's cool. Okay, so
Next person.
next person.
All right, let's see who's next.
Okay, how are we? Do you guys have a timer? Are you guys timing it? Okay, okay.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you, Lena.
so mine is about using mindfulness-based therapy or developing a new model of it, because it's not really, there isn't much literature based on an actual model. It's just like ideas being thrown around or like ideas being used, but there isn't something specific. So it's about developing a model that could be used in therapy with couples and families. And it's been proven to be successful in individual sessions, and it might be easier to use, but it could potentially be useful in like couple and family sessions. It would just probably look a little bit different since you have more people and being involved in the session. And I could read a little bit of what I have so far. I'm just going to read it. So, everyone has aspirations for the relationships that they have, but often these turn into crushing expectations that cause real harm and disillusionment. Societal ideas have constructed a set of molds and manuals that are increasingly impossible to hold as the world changes. These modern myths of what relationships should look like have been challenged by tools found in social constructionist philosophy. Mindfulness-based practices have proven to be another tool that can be used in individual therapy. And I'm planning to kind of include a little bit of like literature, like quotes in that, like research has found, etc. And then introduce like a definition of mindfulness or sort
Yeah,
of.
I was gonna ask about that because
Okay, because what's mindfulness really?
yeah, because I feel like mindfulness can mean various things to different people depending on how you, I guess, define it or experience it yourself. So I think that would be a good thing to specify.
Exactly. And I think that's where I would, I mean, I'm sure through the research, like through over time, I'm going to develop, it's going to evolve. But even in the literature that I found, it also mentions that like it's really difficult to define mindfulness. So I kind of have to like work on that definition. I'm going to include it in my purpose statement, or what is it? Right, purpose statement. I wanted to say personal statement. And so far for my purpose statement, I have the purpose of the study will be to develop a model that integrates systemic therapy with mindfulness-based practices for therapists to apply in therapy sessions with couples and families. At this stage in the research, the theory of mindfulness-based therapy will be generally defined as ... Insert definition there. So yeah, should I share my questions
Yes, please.
all at once, and then you can all like
Yeah.
tell me what you think of how I should edit it,
Sure.
whatever. Okay. I also
So wait, I'm confused. Can you clarify on the purpose where it says, so are you developing a model? through the research?
Yes, I think that's
Re-
the direction that I want to go in. Because, for example, like there like the CBT therapy, like that has kind of like a model in a way, right? Where where we see the therapist taking on a certain role, like as like the educator, like they kind of stop the session in a way, and then they show what the model of, what is it, situation to behavior, and how that can be like changed and stuff. So I'm wondering if like that's how the therapist will kind of approach it, or does it look different? It's basically like creating that tool that therapists can,
Use.
yeah. So my audience would be like therapists and like mental health
Mm.
practitioners,
Okay.
so that
Got
they,
it. Okay.
in their therapies, kind of like us, like
Okay.
we read the textbook, but hopefully in the future it will have a section of like just that.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, that's where I'm at right now.
So are you trying to
Yeah, I really I can see that, and I like your very your couple of first sentences, like those are pretty strong. The everyone has inspirations, and can sometimes cause disillusionment. I like that. Those are strong, bold statements.
Are they like, they catch your attention?
Yeah, I do, because that's very relatable to everyone, and you know what I mean. Like that's like life.
At first, I was kind of hard. It was kind of hard because it's like I was like partners and or parents, because like partners in like a relationship, two partners, or like also the family dynamic, like parents and children. So I was just like, you know what, everyone. Like,
Everyone will benefit.
yeah. And then, I mean, that's what causes a lot of anxiety, like living up to these like societal expectations, and you need
That's
to
true.
kind of like be able to use a lot of emotional regulation in that, and cognitive regulation, and I think mindfulness can help with that in a way.
Okay.
And the model you're trying to develop is going to be like measurable and has goals that they need to reach.
That I'm not sure, because like what I've noticed with in my own like journey is that it's not very like goal oriented. It's not like problem and solution. It's not like solution based. It's more like meeting where the client is at and working with them in that sense. It reminds me a lot of like social constructionist, which is what the like worldview of
So
this
that's
would
the
be.
one?
Yeah, it would be social constructionist, not just because of like theory development, but which was one of like the little bullets on there on the explanation, but also because it reminds me a lot of like narrative therapy, in a sense that that it's really guided by the client and like where they are, and it's a lot of like the client's personal work, like the work that's going on within themselves. Like they're the expert, they're the one who knows who guides the
Meet the client where they are.
therapy. Yeah. So I mean, obviously it won't be like narrative therapy, but it like that's where I'm confused, like because you have to introduce the idea of mindfulness to the client, like you have to kind of like define it and like use tools in that way. So I'm not really sure. like how.
But the
that
client is
goes.
the one who will decide if they want to go with that route.
Exactly.
Because
Yeah.
the whole point of mindfulness is for them to kind of be mindful where they're
They have to
at
be kind of like
first.
open.
Yeah, and see if they want to lean in that direction.
I would be interested, like, to know what can we do to be mindful.
Mhm.
Tools.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking like a little bit ago that like would it be ethical to even include like yoga into a therapy session? But I don't think so.
I know.
Well, you can do it, but not all participants would agree to it.
Yeah.
Not all of them can do it, but
Maybe
that's
I
one of
could
the
like
ways.
You can do an
I
after
could-
session yoga.
yeah, I could suggest because that's
Yeah.
something that I would want to do like in my personal like,
Optional.
yeah, like
It's
but
one of
I'm
the
wondering
ways.
if I would be able to like suggest the family going into like a family yoga session and it would be very like restorative, I think, for them to kind of
I
go
mean, I think also like just using the term yoga, can have either like a negative, positive connotations to different people. I know like in my experience, when people have tried to incorporate yoga in my workplace, they wouldn't use the word yoga. It would be like a neutral definition of it, like like breathing exercises or stretches, something that would not specify or connect it to something that someone can consider negative or against, that they're against it,
yeah, because there's a lot of like definitions of yoga.
Right.
But generally, most of us, like I do, for example, think of
like the physical
poses.
activity. Yeah.
And for us, when we think of that, we're like, oh my gosh, do we have that tolerance in our body to do all these different poses? But like, how Candy suggested, if it was more breathing or stretches, that's more doable for everyone.
It's a lot lighter than if you say yoga or even like Pilates or whatever,
And like I even get
That's
nervous.
strong word.
And do it.
Yeah.
Breathing and stretches.
Yeah.
Like older adults might have limitations with their body.
Like we do.
Well, there's
it
different
with
kinds
older
of
adults.
yoga. Like there's different like types and for specific like there's like they call it like silver yoga because
See,
it's
we
like
don't know
seniors like
Oh,
their
wow.
silver
So-
hair.
Oh wow.
And they usually do positions in a chair since they can't like go down and stuff. My mom
Maybe
did
I
it.
should do that.
So, yeah, and they
That's
have
kinda like
they even
exercise.
have yoga specifically for like trauma informed yoga. Like that's a thing, or yoga for working with children who are on the spectrum of autism. So
See,
there's a lot.
Yeah, but people don't know it, so that's why
Mm-hmm.
you need to like break it down.
Exactly.
That's interesting.
Make it special for you, for them, specifically to that. So I might not. I was considering like introducing it into this. I could still, but like as an option. But yeah, it would have to do a lot of rewording because there's also a lot of like cultural limitations with that. But I can probably introduce that in my personal experience with that in this. Anyway, we can move on. Next person.
Candy.
Okay. I accidentally closed it, so let me just go back in here. Okay, so I chose my topic because you guys know that I have pets and I love my pets. So I chose my topic based on the increasing amount of emotional support animals that are being certified. And what I have seen through my work is that emotional support animals have outgrown service animals. And the difference between service animals and emotional support is that the service animal are animals that are certified to assist with disabilities that are physical. So like blind people or, people that have diabetes or, stuff like that. and emotional support deals more with mental health, and that's why I'm more interested in, those kinds of um, benefits coming from emotional support. And also because really anything can be certified as an emotional support animal, whether it be like a cat or dog or like an iguana or a frog or whatever. So I just think like it can be beneficial to people who really are dealing with mental issues, like whether it be anxiety or just stress or whatever it is in life. So I'm focusing on young adults just because that is my age group and that is what I'm interested in learning about. And that is what I based just overall.
Yeah.
So the research purpose statements that I wrote was what is it? The purpose of, so I'm using a mixed method because I wasn't quite sure whether it would fit into the qualitative or the quantitative aspect of research, but I think using both of them would be best. So I put that the purpose of the mixed method study will be to explore the main effects of emotional support animals on the mental health of young adults in their everyday lives. And again, just because emotional support animals are not lesser, but less of a, like they don't have to be certified, legally. Like service animals have to go through training and stuff like that in order to be certified. Emotional support don't really have to be trained or anything. So just in everyday lives and the benefits that come with that, it's what I'm trying to explore. Does that make sense?
It does. So which worldview are you using?
I'm using the pragmatic worldview. And because it results in the consequence of people's actions, it's why I chose it. Also because it's very real world oriented. I was very confused. But I think that's the one that it fits more into. And also just because I've just seen it so much in life that it's just very problem centered, based on people's mental health issues and what they consider to be benefits. So yeah.
So what kind of questions, research questions are you asking?
So the questions that I wrote were geared towards the effects that the emotional support animals not effects benefit that they provide to different young adults, and like advantages and disadvantages. I think what I'm focusing on, if you guys can see the questions, would be the last two for sure, and then the third one from top down. So like number 3, and then
Candy, do you want to read them?
oh, okay, yeah. So number 3 would be, what effects do emotional support animals have on students' mental health? So I should probably say, what specific effects do emotional support animals have? That's pretty self-explanatory. And also, because there is a problem in role conflicts within mental health, I put that what specific problems do mental health professionals encounter when declaring or certifying an emotional support animal. So because really anything can be considered an emotional support animal, a lot of counselors and therapists struggle with allowing a client to claim something as emotional support. So like, for example, if a client is trying to claim like a fish. Okay, well, what is the fish really doing to provide comfort?
Okay.
Existing, really, right? Because it's not really gonna do anything. So there's a lot of
Is there a lot
like
of
not very a
what
lot of what?
a lot of gray area on like
Yeah, exactly.
stone?
Right. So that's a problem.
Because it's different
Yeah.
individuals.
Yeah.
Yeah, because everyone is different, and like some people might not, if someone thinks that dogs are very good emotional support, well, what if someone doesn't like dogs or is allergic to dogs? So it's being inclusive of other types of animals that can really provide support or uh, assistance to people. And when I say young adults, I think that a lot of young adults have like a lot of stresses in their lives, even like students, and being overwhelmed and having anxiety and stuff like that, that having the support of an animal can ease that transition into their lives.
Yeah.
So yeah,
All right.
it was tough, so
Yeah.
it's still a work in progress.
Yes. Like,
I mean, part of this project is we're discovering more as we go more in depth of the assignment. Like through this module is we're more going into the research questions and how we're introducing the topic. And then the more we're researching, the more we're gonna know how specific and how general we need to be in explaining our scenarios.
yes. I feel like if we research more, we will know exactly what's the purpose of this assignment and what questions are we really asking.
Yeah.
So we'll come along.
Alrighty.
I
go
don't
ahead.
have time for one more
Go ahead.
question. I don't know. I don't remember if you included this in your purpose statement, but maybe a definition of emotional support animal in your study, like what you would be defining it as. Because I think you're gonna have to include that in one of your surveys or whatever, in whatever you do.
Yeah, I think that's a good point because a lot of people don't know the difference between a service animal and emotional support and even pet therapy, which is also another section. Like if I didn't know myself,
Yeah.
I don't think people would be able to tell the difference between the three of them.
Since it's so broad, yeah. You could probably put that into your personal
Yeah.
purpose statement.
Well, somewhere in the intro.
Yeah.
Cool. I think it would make it stronger. But
Good luck with it, though.
Thanks.
luck to us all. All right.
Alrighty.
Last one.
Amanda.
Amanda Yusuf.
Yeah.
So mine is about young adults that are refugees and immigrants and their experience with dominant discourses. The reason why I chose this topic is because I have personal experience with it. Growing up as an immigrant, moving from Iraq to Syria, and then coming here along with other Iraqi families, and then seeing after current events where also Syrian families are traveling here seeking shelter, I've noticed that that sometimes there is a clash between the different dominant discourses that are from my own home country and the ones that are from America. And because I have been growing up in both or different countries, it's hard to balance everything out. And so that's where my curiosity intrigued me to do this for my project. And what I want to do is to find out how other young adults are experiencing that transition and how they're balancing their lives with different dominant discourses. So the way that I would use my research is through the constructivist worldview. And so I chose that because it talks about understanding multiple participant meanings, social and historical construction, and theory generation. So I think that with this worldview, it's not about numbers and it's more about people's experiences, which varies across every person is different basically. And so with that, I would use the qualitative research. And so that's how my questions would be based as.
You sure?
Sure. So my questions, let me scroll down. Okay, so I've wrote like a couple questions that you can guys help me figure out. If, when I say couple, it's like I have 8. Okay, so I'll read them really fast. So number 1 is how does dominant discourses affect refugees and immigrants in America? 2, how much are immigrants and refugees keeping parts of their culture and how much are they advancing to the new culture? 3, who feels free to forge their own path in a new country? 4, why do young adults feel they have to choose between their past and current country's discourses? 5, what makes young immigrant or refugee adults to behave a certain social way more than the other? 6, when is the young immigrant or refugee adult able to make life decisions on their own terms? 2 more, guys. 7, who influences the young adult more? Family or friends? 8, where do young adults feel comfortable to be themselves without the social pressure?
That's more about like their experience and how they feel
Yeah.
being here.
Like the really great research that I've done shows some articles about like people like refugees and immigrants, but I haven't really seen a research or an article that talks about the experience and how much they impact our society.
What do you mean? Where do young adults feel comfortable to be themselves?
Yeah, excellent question. So I feel that there could be, I have this theory that I'm just thinking myself, is that they have, where it says like you wear a different mask depending on where you go. And so it's more like when they're with their friends, they behave in a certain way. When they're at family, they're more like family belief stuff. And when they're with strangers, they would act different. And so I feel like different settings of where they are affect how they react.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Like based on if I'm with my family, I would talk differently with how I'm with my coworkers or my friends.
It's
So
about like
that's
social
where the
context.
word comes from. Yeah.
And so the really key thing that I want to discover is, without considering the different discourses, who are they really? Like who do they follow? Yeah.
I feel like I don't relate to that question because I don't see myself being different in different settings. But that's just my mentality. Like maybe I am, but in my mind, I don't believe I'm being different in any different social situations.
I was thinking.
I mean, obviously, of course, at work you are a professional, as opposed to being just like out and about with friends. But I still feel like I am myself in both places.
I would wonder if, like, in a way, some people's like cultural idea of what it is like to be professional would kind of influence that, like how you present yourself in like a workplace versus like because I feel like for me, like there are certain like expectations that like come out when I think of what it is to be like professional, or like how you see your boss, for example. Like, am I pulling from my Middle Eastern side, or am I pulling from my Mexican side on like where was I taught of how to be like respectful to authority in a way.
And so this research is more about people who have been through different dominant discourses. So you're right, you might not relate to it and others do and others might not. But I think my audience would be educators, politicians, and community leaders, as we're having a lot of incoming diversity that sometimes creates some conflicts, but I also can see the benefits of it. But it's just a matter of clearing how they're balancing their life. So that's pretty much my thing. And
sorry, I have like, since I don't know how we are on time with this recording,
we're
but
okay.
I don't know if it's gonna cut off at any particular time, but
Oh
there's
no!
things that I'd like to mention that might make it stronger or something.
yeah,
it would
sure.
be including like intersectionality of identity. Like maybe it's not one or the other, but maybe it's just
Both
like a
combination.
marriage of both.
Yeah.
And like speak
Right.
Different discourse.
Yeah, in a way, like an alternative discourse.
Why would they have to choose between this or that?
So then that would make its own dominant discourse.
Yeah. Or like, are they able to feel empowered in their own identity?
Yeah, because I feel like a lot of those questions is this or that, you know? So I think maybe, like you said, anything that would combine to create like one self.
Like how they can combine their discourses with where they are living discourses and make it stronger together.
Yeah.
Another thing is on question 2, like advancing to the new culture. I don't know about that word advancing. Do you mean like assimilating? Like
for example, some people are stuck to the mindset that they were in their previous home country, that they don't open their mind to different options and beliefs.
So
maybe adapting to new culture.
Better word?
Cultural adaptation. I think there's a few words. Aculturalization. I think that's how you say it. Or
Cultural adaptation.
Assimilation.
Oh.
One of those. I kind of get them confused.
I feel like assimilation would mean something a little more different than integrating a culture. But I could be wrong.
But I can just search. But that's good.
Look into
Assimilation and what was the
aculturalization.
Aculturalization. Okay. Cool. What was your third one?
I forget. Oh yeah, it's almost the same thing, like the language of how you're going to test or like use your qualitative tests and stuff. Like just to make sure that it's culturally sensitive to them and able to really give their honest answers because they understand what's being asked of them.
So for me, I think it would be Arabic and English because my targeted people is Syrians and Iraqis, and specifically just because of the recent news, that's the most people from that population are coming over. And also in English to see how their peers who are from America are experiencing it. So.
Ooh, I just had an idea. What if you provided the same tests or like surveys, but one in Arabic and one in English, to also see like how they're, I don't know if that's ethical or not, but like to see how they're progressing in that language.
So which one they will choose to do.
Yeah, like do they answer it in the same way or do they answer it differently?
That's very interesting.
I don't know.
Language differences.
I don't know if that's like a
ethical
English test or something, like administering an English test. But yeah, I mean, that might be.
But I feel like that's also a personal choice. If you're giving someone a choice between 2 different languages, they would be more geared towards picking the language that they're more comfortable with. Which means ties back into the other question about where they feel more comfortable.
Yeah, well, part of the survey, I can see how many people have taken Arabic more than English.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How they would feel more comfortable.
Rated. Yeah.
That's a good point.
what's with the Zoom meeting?
Um,
Are you paying for it?
I don't know. I think
I feel like that's more than 40 minutes.
It is.
yeah, it's like 45 now. But I don't think I'm paying for anything because
just
isn't there like a
case,
sign that's supposed to pop up?
there should, but it should have popped up 5 minutes
A
ago.
long time ago. Okay, well, I think that's a good, like, we can just tie it in because I
Yeah.
don't, yeah. But I feel like we got far, you guys. Better than how confused we were.
Yeah.
That's true. We can
Um,
also meet together one time.
yeah.
Or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Get
Please.
a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Or multiple.
Or multiple. Now that spring break. Yeah. So
If anything like pops up within now and the time that we can always be like editing this
Yes, I'll leave it in
introduction.
Google Docs.
and
Yeah.
we're always leaving Facebook messages to each other. So
Mhm.
Perfect. Because I
Alright.
think I need support in this.
we all do. We
And
all
like
do.
writing it.
I know, that's so true.
I feel like I'm really like passionate about this,
Uh-huh.
but like getting it out and into writing, like I'm so particular in how I say things that it's just like nothing gets put on paper. Like I'm always like,
But what's put on paper is really amazing though. With your wording.
Mhm. What you have so far is good.
that makes me feel better.
Alrighty.
So I think our next meeting, it's like in 3 weeks or 2 weeks after spring break.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe
Do
if
you
you
think
guys
it's
want to
possible
meet.
to meet during spring break?
It's what?
Is it possible to meet
We
during
can
spring
make
break?
it work.
Yeah, we can meet in spring break.
Okay.
Cool. We're not traveling, right? I'm not traveling.
I'm not.
We're not traveling.
No.
I'll try not to travel, guys.
Oh, you are?
No, travel if you have to. Have fun.
No. Okay, then. Well, thank you, guys.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Good luck.
Bye.
Bye.
How do I do this?
Meeting, right?
Is it the recording here?
Sure.